And how would that be funded then? How would the reserve fund be funded?
It's in the rates.
Oh, it's already in the rates?
It's already in the rates for both of them.
Okay.
For both plans, the incurred but not reported claims are part of the rates that you saw on attachment 1.
So if there are, let's say, a paucity of incurred but not reported claims, do we get a decrease in the rate, or do we appreciate a savings from them?
Not under the standalone program, because any claims, any part of that reserve remains as profit for Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
What?
Under the NIHIP program, if and when, let's say at the end of the 3 years, if we were with them and we chose to leave, if there were any funds left after our claims had been paid, those funds would come back to the district.
So it's a refund. In
Rebate.
essence,
Yeah.
rebate.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there an audit? Would there be an audit performed at the end of the 3-year period to determine how much, if any, is left in the reserve fund? Do you know that, Becky?
Yes, they audit that every year, to be honest with you.
And I'm sorry, Tony, but just as you've explained this reserve fund for NIHIP, there's also a reserve fund currently built into what we have.
Correct. We just don't know dollars associated with it. And I know for a fact that after all claims have been paid under a standalone program, there's no refund back to the district in that case.
Isn't that standard procedure for, to change over insurance that way?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. And then,
It's just that the NIHIP draws it out as, we could hold that reserve. We could set up a trust fund in our district and hold that reserve.
do it ourselves, right?
We could. But,
Currently, the money is allocated in a separate account, as I understand it?
yes, at NIHIP, it would be allocated to a separate account
An
and
interest-bearing
earn.
account?
Absolutely.
And the district would get the benefit of the interest?
Correct.
Not just the interest, but whatever unused principal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So do the rates change then after the first year?
Correct.
So,
As it would with any insurance.
yeah, okay.
Up or down?
Up or down. And if you look at the history of NIHIP, you can see that on that sheet that you have attached to the document I gave you this evening. There are years, if you go back to 06, 07, there were districts that saw 8.2% increases, but some districts saw 11.8% reduction. So it really depends on your claim service, your claims usage, and the dollars of those claims.
Becky, on these averages, is this the average of the total of the entire NIHIP that you're giving me here, or is this averages of each individual ones, and if so, are they weighted? Because that number means a lot different.
The high-low is our individual districts, so we went
Right.
through the NIHIP plan. The pool average is truly just a pool average.
So if one district went up, so there were only two here, that the average of 8.2 to 11, it's just, these are just point-in-time numbers. So one district saw an 8% increase, and they were 70% of the whole pool, and the other saw 11.30. That's not reflected in the
Right.
average. Okay, and so it's not the total.
No.
And Becky, explain something else to me. That's important. The increase that NIHIP is quoting us of almost 7%, you said that was based on our experience.
Correct.
These averages that you gave us for NIHIP of 11.4 is the high, negative 4.1 is the low. That obviously took into account everyone participated in that co-op, correct?
In the co-op, correct.
So what
Does
would
not include us in any of those averages.
Understood. What would your best guess be if our 7% is without looking to the other people in the co-op? Would ours be higher or lower?
Kind of in between. I mean, if some people saw 3.1 reduction, and if you're looking at the 11, 12, which those rate quotes are for us, and district saw as great as 12.9, ours was somewhere in between.
I mean, from a mathematical analysis, if the average is 3.2, we're 4 percentage points above the
Right.
average. We're actually closer to the highest than we would be to the lowest.
And claims experience will drive it, which is representative in the hub proposal of 8.8%.
I'm also interested in the insurance committee. When you reported on your appendix that on the 19th there were 10 people that gave an opinion, and today there were only 8.
Two people didn't attend the
Did
meeting
not
tonight,
attend.
right.
Did they share any of their positions with you?
They did not share them with me. I don't know if they shared with Andy or not, or Dr. Stringer.
No, they did not.
Becky, maybe it's worth just, in response to some of the questions we've heard, to give us an explanation of how the individual districts' rates are determined for future years in the NIHIP plan.
There is a banding formula. I guess I would ask if there are any more questions on the incurred but not reported, and then The banding formula, was put in place at NIHAB probably about 10 years ago. There used to be a very narrow band, and the districts who had good experience felt that they were not getting credit for their good experience, but the districts who were having bad experience kind of like the very narrow band. And so that there's an across the board, the pool as a whole requires so much money to make it an insurance year to go forward, based upon historical claims, and just like the HUB proposal, when they send us a rate and say they need X amount of dollars. Then they take that average and look at districts who've had good experience and bad experience, and there's a 10% band up above and below the average. And so that a district with very, very good experience may have a reduction of 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8%, depending on what year it is. And districts who have very, very bad years, if the average of the pool were 5%, their increases could go up to 15 or 20%. So it really depends on any particular year, but the banding formula is plus or minus the average that the pool needs to collect.
So if the,
Still collecting the same amount of dollars.
so if the pool needs 5% more next year than it needed this year, kind of the base is every district gets a 5% increase, but then you apply experience,
Right.
and our increase could be as high as 15% if we have a dreadful year,
Right,
and as low as minus 5%
Right.
if we have a really good year.
correct.
And is that determined purely by mathematical formula,
Yes.
or is there any decision, kind of judgment call that needs to be made by anybody?
The only judgment call is made by the underwriters of the program, and I'll call them shock loss claims, claims that maybe exceed the $150,000 level, or if they ban the shock loss claims, so that we as an individual district are not hurt by that, because every district has shock loss claims every year. But the HUB proposal and the proposal from Blue Cross and Blue Shield as a standalone program does the same thing.
Who selects the underwriters?
It's through Gallagher Benefit Services. They take the underwriting that's provided by Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and then Gallagher Benefit Services also does their own analysis of the information. And then they have conversations with it.
Do you know if we've provided this new group a number of the claims that we've been historically tracking, just to see where we would fall into their rate increases? Have they looked at our prior claims history?
They've looked at our prior claims history, but I don't think they did that analysis. What they did is go to Blue Cross and Blue Shield and ask for our actual claim experience. And we authorized Blue Cross and Blue Shield to provide that to us.
And how many years back do they go?
They probably looked at the last 24 months, just as the proposal from HUB International looks at 24 months of claims.
And that's how they came up with these numbers?
Correct.
And in the pool situation, how do these numbers equate in relationship to other members of the pool? If you've got your high and your low, are we on the continuum on the higher, middle, or lower end?
I think we're probably in the middle our first year,
Okay.
and then they'll actually start to look at our claims experience as we go forward, as would happen with the HUB proposal also.
It would have to
Right,
happen.
right.
Right.
Again, I think the savings in the rates have to do with the cost of reinsurance. Again, when you have a plan that covers 5,000 employees versus 500, you're going to get better rates and fixed costs for the specific and the aggregate insurances, and your administrative fees are spread over many more people than just 500.
Well, your risk pool is larger.
Correct.
Becky, at the highest and probably most simplistic level, I'm kind of seeing two plans where effectively the beneficiaries, the employees don't really see a change in what it covers. The risk profile of future rate increases seem relatively similar because either one can go up, but one is $100,000 less. But I'm seeing an insurance committee that has changed from saying, we kinda like the $100,000 less to, we'd like to spend that $100,000. They must have had a reason.
I
And I'm
would-
kind of curious what some of the logic was of these resources going to these benefits particularly, what those benefits were.
And that's why we asked Mr. Wyckoff to do that.
May I?
Yes,
Artist, when we were looking at this, everything that you said, I think, is accurate, that from where we sit, the plans are fairly similar. This is just how the financials are organized underneath. Our concern is, because we've looked at co-ops before, and we've been self-insured in the past as well. When you go into a co-op, you lose some control. As you develop this bigger risk pool, you're also taking on the risk of these other districts. We feel that we like to have control over our body. When we have a good year, we like to, experience the benefits from having that. It was once explained to me that when you go into a co-op, and I don't know that this is a very much of a generalization, if you go into a co-op, there's two things that can happen. You actually have worse claims experience than the average, in which case they really wouldn't want you. And if I understand correctly, there are a couple of people who've come out of the co-op and are trying to go back in, but because they've had bad claims insurance experience, they can't. The other is that you're appealing to this co-op because you've had a better than average history in the past, in which case you're not going to realize the benefits moving forward because everybody else in the risk pool has pulled you down a little bit. So that was one of our concerns. The payoff from having a good year is diminished because it's being shared in that pool. We also went back and we kind of compared. Everybody knows the past performance is no guarantee of future results. So in some degree, we're all throwing, we're taking a chance here one way or another. Over the past 4 years that we've been with Blue Cross Blue Shield, our average increase has been 3.8%. Over that same time period, if we had been with NIHIP, and I can, working from the average numbers, the increase was 5.1%, or 1.3% above. I think the feeling, I know the feeling on the committee is that as appealing as a cash grab for 1 year might be, we hesitate to buy in for 3 years, only to find that next year, they've got complete control of our rates. We've lost control, and now we've lost that equal amount of savings. The one difference between the two that I think enters into it as well is if we go to NIHIP, we'll be using Gallagher as a consultant, and Gallagher is under contract of NIHIP. Currently, we use Hub International, who is under contract to us. If we're not happy with Blue Cross Blue Shield as it stands now, we can go to Hub and say, find us other options. Tell us what the industry is doing. Show us other co-ops. Show us this and that. We lose some of that power. $45,000 of the savings doesn't come from the health costs. It comes from not retaining the services of Hub because they would be redundant with Gallagher there. The downside of that, though, is if after a couple of years or at any point in this contract or this time that we're with NIHIP, we decide we want to look at other options, we have to go back out and find another consultant to help us do that. Maybe that makes more sense. If we're not paying Hub for the next 2 years, we're saving $45,000 a year. But there is some inherent services provided, even if it's not for me to judge whether that's money well spent or not.
Becky, this form, historical rate adjustments, that's included in the packet. Is this the NIHIP?
yes, and it's prior to the Band-Aid formula being applied.
Because the last 3 years from 9/108 to 8/31/10, the average is 2.7%.
And again, that rate adjustments on that particular sheet are prior to the Band-Aid